AI and marketing. The challenge in terms of marketing AI is that it is largely invisible. It might be there, but you can't see it's there. So what appears to be necessary is to host some high-profile public event in order to promote your product. And this presumably was behind IBM's game of chess against Garry Kasparov, where Deep Blue beat Garry Kasparov in 1997. Presumably also it was behind the challenge to the two leading Jeopardy players at the television game show in 2011. And presumably too it might have been behind the match between AlphaGo and Lee Sedol, one of the world's leading Go players, in 2016. It's important to stage some high-profile public event in order to draw attention to that which is otherwise invisible. At the same time, AI is also potentially a very good marketing tool. Spacemaker AI is a company that develops AI software for architecture and urban planning. It was established in 2016. And according to Maria Dance of Spacemaker AI, AI is certainly something that opens doors because people want to hear about it. Indeed, the most successful aspect of marketing in terms of Spacemaker was the way that it marketed itself to Autodesk. In 2020, barely 4 years since AI Spacemaker was launched, it was sold to Autodesk for $240 million. At the same time, there's potentially a cynical use of AI for marketing purposes, or a misuse of AI. Sophia, the humanoid robot, is often presented by Hanson Robotics, the company that developed it, as though it or she is some kind of aware human being that is capable of engaging in a conversation. Sophia, however, is far from being capable of engaging in a conversation. Uh, it or she does not have consciousness, is not aware of what it's saying, it simply has to be pre-programmed, and any such event is staged. And indeed, within the AI community, uh, Sophia is regarded as completely bogus. Rodney Brooks, one of the leaders in that world, dismisses Sophia as a complete sham. Others within the industry have rejected Sophia as being little more than a rubber head with a tape recorder. Perhaps that is a bit unfair, but certainly in terms of the way that Hanson Robotics has been promoting Sophia, it's probably closer to the truth. So Sophia is used as a marketing tool by Hanson Robotics. In fact, one could even come to the conclusion that wherever you see the term AI in the name of a company, it's there simply for marketing purposes. This, at least, is the conclusion of Theodoros Galanis, one of the leading figures in AI. Space Factory, AI Space Factory, for example, is a company that clearly has AI, promotes AI, seemingly promotes itself through AI, but when it comes down to it, it doesn't actually use AI. I once met the CEO of AI Space Factory in a conference in Shanghai and asked him how he was using AI. And he confessed that actually Space Factory wasn't using AI as yet, although ultimately it had ambitions of using AI. And to some extent also, the same could be applied to AI Build, which, like Space Factory, also develops 3D printing or additive manufacturing. AI Build is a company that's established by some graduates of the AADRL, the Design Research Laboratory at the Architectural Association, and they've given their company the name AI Build. But do they use AI? Certainly, when they describe their product, they don't actually refer to AI. Enterprise software that unlocks the true potential of additive manufacturing. In fact, when I asked Alisa Andruszek, who used AI Build to 3D print this installation at the Venice Biennale, the Creation Pavilion at the Venice Biennale in 2018, she confessed that AI Build hadn't used any AI at all in the use of this particular kind of product. One therefore is left with the kind of the problem that AI is susceptible to marketing. In some ways, this is the logic of inverse camouflage. If camouflage is about pretending that something isn't there when it is, then maybe inverse camouflage is the opposite logic, pretending that something is there when it's not. AI clearly is susceptible to being misused or abused for marketing purposes. Many of us are aware of the expression, beware the Ides of March. This is a reference to the 15th of March, the Ides of March, which in the Roman calendar was when all debts had to be settled, payback time, as it were. And this was the date on which Julius Caesar was murdered, the 15th of March, the Ides of March. But the expression, beware the Ides of March, actually comes from William Shakespeare, who used it in his play about Julius Caesar. Perhaps, though, in the context of AI, our concern should be not so much beware the Ides of March, but beware the AI of marketing. AI is susceptible to being misused or abused for marketing purposes.